how this deterioration has happened quite quickly between the U.S. and China ahead of these talks. We're talking about capital flow restrictions now, travel visas, tech companies being targeted. What's your base case? I mean, is there still a very low bar of any kind of breakthrough or agreement?
Yeah. So what I'd say, I think it's quite clear to me that China is not going to be making any concessions at the talks this week. So if we have to reach some sort of interim, partial, mini deal, whatever you want to call it, that concession has to come from the U.S. side, and in particular, it has to come from the White House. So the timing is a bit odd, as you say, for all these, the visa ban, the restriction on investments to come out this week, just ahead of the talks. I'd be a bit cautious of, reading too much into it in terms of what it means for the talks on the 10th to 11th, because that could depend on a lot of other things. I think there's still a bit of incentive for the U.S. to try to reach some sort of small deal on trade, just to get the positive headline, especially given all the other distractions that are happening in the US. And I guess that's still probably not just my base case, but the base case of most investors that I speak to, that we will get some sort of mini deal. If we don't get it, and the tariffs go ahead from 25% to 30% on the 15th of October, that's going to be a big negative shock, I think, for markets, particularly for us sitting in Asia.
So it's priced in, and I guess that follows into the other question. Why is dollar-yen still above 107?
Absolutely. I think there is expectation that that tariff increase on the 15th of October will be delayed. That's why the dollar CNY fixings are still below 7.1. That's why dollar yen is still above 106. And I think that remains the case. We remain in that status quo if we get a mini deal and a temporary delay of the tariffs. But if we don't, and as you guys have been discussing, that's an increasing risk, then I think dollar yen has to go a lot lower from where we are.
So, Adarsh, where are the other safe havens if we don't get a deal at the end of this week, a mini deal, beyond dollar-yen?
Yeah. So I think the yen is a very good safe haven. I think gold obviously stands to benefit if we get a resumption of risk on. And technically, gold prices do look quite strong. I think otherwise, in the Asian currency space, I think the dollar should do quite well against the major exporters like the Korean won, the Singapore dollar ahead of the MAS meeting, and of course the CNH. I think if the tariffs go ahead on the 15th of October, our calculations tell us that the implied level of dollar CNY to offset the tariff increase is meaningfully higher. It's around 7.35. So that tells me that the PBOC will probably have to allow the fixings to move above 7.1. So being long dollars as a safe haven versus Asian currencies would make sense as well.